Hello and welcome to HostMilano, welcome to the FCSI EMI booth, and welcome to this panel session which is very kindly supported by Alto-Shaam and will address the extremely hot topic of embodied carbon, carbon measurement, carbon management, and the publication of the PALIS framework, which is a new benchmark for carbon transparency. To do that, I have an expert panel. I will ask them to introduce themselves and we'll get going. Let's start with you first, please, Lauren.
I'm Lauren. I'm Commercial Director at Impact Leap. I'm an FCSI Senior Associate and I'm the writer of the Sustainability Standard.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lauren. Danny?
Me. I'm Danny from Evito. We helped write the framework, maybe, with that help.
Thank you, Danny. Simon?
Yeah, hello. Good morning, everyone. I'm Simon Parke-Davis. I'm the Vice President of International Sales for Alto-Shaam.
Thank you very much. Welcome all. Danny, let's set the scene here. Before we talk about the framework, let's talk about the issue of carbon transparency and why it matters. Why do, fundamentally, we need to start being more transparent about the carbon emissions that commercial kitchens are producing?
I suppose there's two answers. Answer one is builders and main contractors need it to hit their requirement and their compliancy. And secondly, we should really know what we do. When we buy a car, we ask what the mileage is and how much it costs to run, but we also work out how much it costs to buy it in the first place. So it's the same thing.
Great stuff. Lauren, where's the industry demand coming from? What is driving this? What's the catalyst behind carbon transparency?
I think the biggest myth is that it actually comes from main contractors and construction. You should know that by now. Weird. It's not coming from construction, it's not coming from the main contractors. It's coming from the big customers with their reporting, so the big banking, the big brands. They've got sustainability roadmaps with all these big promises, and it's the trickle-down effect. So it's coming from them. The main contractor just looks like they're carrying it because they're running the project.
Yeah, right, okay. Simon, fundamentally, why must the industry get more sustainable and account for the carbon that it's emitting? Why must we all do better kind of across the board? Why does this matter?
Well, I think if you look at it, it's not just our industry, right? It's every industry, manufacturing, supply chain management. And we may be a little bit behind. Like Danny said, if you're looking at the whole scope of works in a building, we are just one part of that.
Right.
And I think that we need to be accountable. It's great for us as manufacturers to understand and improve ourselves with a benchmark, one that we can actually look at and understand where can we improve, and this then offsets to the customer as well. So it's a journey that we're all on, and we're going through it now, and we need to see the benefits in the future. But if we don't start the journey, we'll never get there.
No, absolutely. Lauren, Simon uses the phrase, this is a journey. This is something of a challenge for some food service operators, for some manufacturers along the way. What are the biggest challenges or obstacles in the way that are preventing operators from operating in a more sustainable way and also measuring and managing their carbon footprint?
I think there's so many factors. The work that Danny and his team do is driven by the big owners of massive builds, and they say they want the data. And I'm sure if you walk around these halls in the next couple of days, you'll be able to spot eco-friendly green trees and water drops all over the place. The big buyers, the customers, are basically looking around going, oh, it's sustainable because it's green and there's a tree and there's a water drop. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
You can walk around and ask these manufacturers, so why is that there? And there isn't really an answer. So there's a couple of challenges. One, it's understanding what is sustainability. Mm-hmm. It's not just energy efficiency. It's not breaking news. We started talking about that 15 years ago. It's understanding where to get the data.
Yeah.
So I've worked with quite a few different manufacturers at kind of working within their systems. And I think one of the real big gaps is actually guidance from industry bodies. This is trickle down, and you can get an EPD for paint and Velux windows, but you can't get one for a combi oven. So we are massively behind. But I think we've kind of been bottom of the rung because when you're doing a massive build, you're looking at floors, walls, and ceilings.
Yeah.
But there's been an attitude problem as well. We don't like change. We've done this the same way.
Yeah.
And a new way of doing things, a new way of measuring it, and being able to answer for your marketing has been really, really challenging. So I think with mix between change, attitude, and understanding, and a lack of guidance, we've ended up at the beginning of a journey far too late.
Yeah.
But there is significant change. That sounds really negative. Over the past 3 years, I can personally speak to it. 3 years ago, it was kind of, oh, it's a fad, it'll go away. Like it was the latest way to wear jeans. And now you've got manufacturers that are talking about it in the right way, but I think it's 25% of manufacturers that are moving forward. And if we're going to have an industry in 10 years, we need to be able to change with the customer rather than against them.
So there's still an awful lot of greenwash the industry needs to cut through and actually put that into action.
Oh, this is where you get me in trouble, isn't it? I promised I wasn't going to be that version of me today, Mike. We leave that for the column. I don't think anybody intentionally greenwashes. I call it green wishing because it's not done with malice, it's not done with intent. But as I say, you can walk around these hall after hall of equipment. There's green, there's leaves, there's eco. It doesn't mean it's not sustainable. It means they're doing some sustainable things.
Yes.
But to call it eco-friendly or ecological or sustainable, it's just completely incorrect. It's a lack of understanding of the subject. You can't say something sustainable without evidence. It's like if I sit here and say, oh, well, I went and ran 8 miles this morning. You wouldn't doubt me. I didn't. I ate 4 croissants, 'cause it's the same thing. But you can say something and you don't question it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what a lot of the people visiting here are doing. Yeah, we'll have a look at that because it's sustainable. Okay, so why is it sustainable? And that's the question that we need to start asking.
Right. Danny, Lauren said that the industry is behind on this journey and it's playing catch up with other sectors. From your perspective, how is progress looking now? Are you seeing operators making sufficient headway in really looking and assessing their carbon footprint? And also, what are the easy wins here for an industry that feels like it's behind the curve? How does it catch up?
Does it catch up? I think from an operator's point of view, they're led by us. They want to be more sufficient, more sustainable, but they don't really know what it is. So some operators will say, we're going to go all electric. We had a venue last year, we're going to refit 36 kitchens, we're going to go all electric from a gas building to an electric building. It's physically impossible. Right? We did the calcs, we needed 4,000 kilowatts, and I think they had available 500. So guess what? We went back to gas. But their answer is that's how we're going to go sustainable. Then there's another operator that in the UK won't serve beef because cows fart, and won't serve dairy because obviously cows fart, so they use other things. But then there's other operators who are a little more lateral thinking, which are saying we want to manage what we can manage, and we're not going to penalise the end user. So by that, they're still going to serve roast beef on a Sunday. They're still going to make real dairy ice cream, thank God. And then, but they're going to manage what they can at the front end. So they want to look at equipment and understand what the sustainable and the carbon footprint is. But then that needs to be tangible. And everybody understands electrics, but you can have something that's 3-phase, something that's 1-phase, something that's 240, something that's 400 volt, and then you can put the amp to it. They're all completely correct numbers, but they're not tangible because they're not in one form. So you can't look at it and say, actually, all on the 4-phase. Simon's got this on some of their data sheets. If you look at it at 400 volts, 300 volt, you don't know what it is. It changes. The clients actually need something across everything they buy in a kitchen to say, okay, these are the numbers that we've got. These are the areas that we've got high carbon emissions. So the transport, if it's shipped around the world, if it's flown in, is it a high volume of steel? And then from that, they can manage that output. That's the start of the journey. Then it goes on to how do they manage it through operation. There is no point buying the lowest carbon footprint product if it's only going to last 5 years and the Alto-Shaam oven lasts 15 years and you're going to be replacing the one that you brought 3 times and it's only got half the footprint of the Alto-Shaam.
It's a false economy.
Yeah, but then it's also the same false economy. You have to add the data into it of what's the latent heat, because the latent heat goes on and you have to then calculate your air handling to it. So that goes up. What's the energy consumption? What's the chemicals? So it's all part and parcel as a holistic program.
Yeah.
But if you don't know where you're starting, you don't know where you're going to end up. It's like having a marathon and saying, I'm going to run a marathon, but where's the start line? And also, I don't know where the finish line is, but I know I'm going to stop when I've done 26.7 miles.
A lot of running analogies on this panel as well.
Yeah.
I like it. Let's bring the perspective of the equipment manufacturer. So from your perspective, Simon, what are the tangible upsides of equipment that operate in a more sustainable way? How does that ultimately help the customer? How does it help the operator?
Well, not only does it help the customer, it helps us as a manufacturer. So there are many things that we've, say, evolved into doing in our supply chain management and processes, and we're learning ourselves how to improve that. Once it's left the factory, like Danny said, and you've calculated the transport, the emissions and everything for the embodied carbon. I think the benefit then that the customer needs to also realise is what's the operating carbon on this product? So what does this mean to me for the next 10, 15 years? And they're getting a lot smarter.
Yeah.
They're educated now. They don't make decisions so much based on just price. Of course, there's a lot of that, but when you understand what it is on the front end for the embodied carbon, and then what it is when you're actually using this product and how it's saving you money and energy. And if you've got a whole estate, and you're trying to manage it, the equipment is a small part of that, but it's an integral part. If it's not doing its job properly, you cannot function.
Yeah.
And you cannot deliver what the customers require. So, I mean, from my side, everybody, like we said before, is on this journey. And they will be. And we've all got smarter even in our own lives. You know, we count our calories on the menu before we make a decision of what we're going to eat. So it's that simple. We should be doing that throughout our entire lives. And I was going to say it's for the kids as well, you know. I mean, it's funny, but it is. I look at mine and think, I want you to have a planet. Yeah,
it's leaving the world in a better place,
exactly.
Right? I guess at the top, Lauren, you talked about the need for more industry unification on this and better guidance. Can you talk through anyone that's watching this that doesn't entirely know what TM65 is? Could you talk about that as a standard and why that is helpful to have a unified standard for assessing embodied carbon?
Yeah, I think it's what I've weirdly become known for. You talk about something often enough, and I don't know if it's my middle name, to be honest. I'll have to check my passport. So TM65, it's a standard by the Chartered Institute of Building and Structural Engineers. Essentially, it's a data format where when data goes in, if it's done well and it's done properly, it comes out in a way that you can actually put equipment along a line and actually read it in a way that makes sense. The challenge with a lot of carbon data, despite the fact that it pretty much works off the same data set, is you will get it done by different consultants to different standards in different formats. If you get an EPD, it's about 12 pages, and at the end of it, you've got 90 rows, 40 columns, and it's all that plus 4.0. You're not reading it, are you? You're going to look at that and go, oh, that's nice. What? So with the TM65, it actually comes out in a format where you can go, right, this is what I'm looking at. Is it perfect? No, it's actually quite a simple calculation. It's not specifically built for catering equipment. The struggle to get that off the ground has been real. Because the industry's kind of attitude towards carbon was pretty poor for 2 years. It's kind of only really become relevant since the Palace framework. There's other addendums, so it's not just UK based.
Yeah.
So
this would apply across Europe.
Yes. It's not specifically to Europe at the moment, but there's a UAE addendum, there's North America, there's Canada, there's Australia, there's New Zealand. It's cost efficient, it's simple to actually work with if you do it well. The challenge is, if you're a manufacturer and somebody goes, I need a TM65 for this, you can just chuck some data in it and it'll pump a number out. I think there's enough manufacturers around here that, God forbid you do that and it lands in my inbox. Because you'll get, so nice try. Love that for you. No, we're not going to do that.
Because it has to mean something.
It has to mean something, yeah. So you will get carbon footprints done by specialist companies, shall we say, and it'll say the only replaceable part on a fridge over 10 years is a gasket. I don't think there's anybody in this hall, in this exhibition, that goes, yeah, I had a fridge for 10 years and only ever replaced the gasket. But it's about the data that you put in and that you're willing to put in. We've got to be more open to going, do you know what, we don't have data.
Yeah.
A lot of manufacturers have warranty data. After that, it goes out into the wild and it lives, and it might have children you never bloody know these days, do you? But we don't really know what happens with it because it behaves differently in different environments. But everybody knows their part sales volume. It's not coming from nowhere, is it? So we can make an assessment. You've just got to be willing to put the time in. So when you get data out of the TM65, my personal opinion is if it doesn't have common replaceable parts in it, that's not just consumables, it's of no use to you. Because you're just getting a number based on how it's built.
Yeah.
It needs to be developed. You need to understand kind of, am I replacing PCB boards? Am I replacing significant materials in it? The level of detail manufacturers go to shows their willingness. Just to touch on it, there are 2 levels of TM65. There is the basic, which is I see it as finger painting, to be honest, which is really offensive to people. And, well, I'm from Yorkshire, so apologies if anyone gets offended by this. It's the absolute basic that you can do.
Yeah.
There are so many buffers and calculations in it that it's basically the end of the world scenario. Whereas the mid-level, if it's done right and it's done properly, it's usually within about 15 to 20% of an EPD.
Yep.
So you're getting a pretty good number out of it. And I think the reason it has been adopted is because, as Danny mentioned, it does get driven by main contractors. They'll go out to the catering industry and go, can we have your EPDs? And they go, no, because we don't have it. Have you got an LCA? No. Can you do a TM65? Minor tantrum, stamp their feet a little bit, give them 6 months and they can do it.
Yeah.
But the pressure is coming from the fact that they expect us to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
But a TM65, you can get the SIBSI tool. If you actually read the guidance, it does tell you how to do it. You can get expert advice on it. There's different companies that will do it, but it's a way to get standardised, comparable information.
Yeah.
Apples for apples is where we need to play, because I'm pretty sure we can go around every combi of a manufacturer at Host, and they'll all tell you different things.
Yes.
But trying to put them in columns and line them up and then go, so which one's best?
But you need to take the time to put the right data in. It's
Yeah.
the old cliche, garbage in, garbage out, right?
Oh God, yeah. And over the past 3 years, I think I've looked at 11,000 data sets, which is probably why I'm the way I am, actually. But I've seen a coffee machine with 13 kilos of lithium in it. And I'm pretty sure in Vito said, well, we've heard of fair trade coffee, but battery acid coffee's new.
Good grief.
We've seen equipment where, rather than fiberglass because it comes on a roll, it was declared as paper.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been willing to actually try and get data that you look at and you go, yeah, there's definitely MDF in my fridge. That might be wrong. And just being willing to try.
Yeah, brilliant. Danny, we mentioned at the start of the conversation we're going to be talking about the Palace framework, which is it's a publication, it's a new benchmark for carbon transparency in commercial kitchens. Can you just sum up, what is the Palace framework and why was it launched this year? Why is there a need for it?
What is it? So 18 months ago, we were on a project and the main contractor at Stage 4 said, is carbon footprinting or the embodied carbon within your package? I knew nothing about it and I sat there and, that's expensive, can't be, it's more than what it's cost. So apparently the most formally worded message I've ever sent to somebody on LinkedIn, help me please, and tried to understand it. I joined a call with the contractor and I don't think I've ever said no to anything and I'm like, yeah, we'll give it a go. And then it transpires and I thought, well, most manufacturers we work with, they're a high spend product, it's a high value. So combi ovens, £1 million on quite a lot of our projects. Simon's £250,000 on some projects. Scott's at the back, we spend a hell of a lot of money with, or we specify a lot. Mm-hmm. And you would think the amount of money that these manufacturers get in specifications out of us, it's normally 10 products out of each. So to go back and do your carbon footprinting, all right, it might cost you £7,000 to get into it and understand it. But one manufacturer rang me up afterwards, and after we'd done it a couple of weeks ago, and said, "Oh, we had £2.5 million worth of specifications from you on one project." Yeah, that's great. You won't get any more because you won't do your TM65. That's the problem, because we would expect on sales and volume that you would partner us as the consultant and help us. We don't ask for much. We ask for a bit of help and to give the data to the client. If the manufacturer can't be bothered to do it or is scared to do it, which is probably more on it, I think Simon's had a conversation of, how do we know if we're good? What if somebody else comes in different to us? Well, that means we can develop it and we can see where we're different. And that was the whole process to the carbon framework. There is no guidance. FEA have changed their structure 4 times, I think, and how do you do it? FCSI, nobody knew, to a fact that in October and November last year, there was a FCSI conference dinner. Somebody got up as a guest speaker and said, I wouldn't worry about embodied carbon. Yet there's 2 consultants in the room that we've got them on projects where we're getting driven and it's part of our deliverables.
Yeah.
We don't get paid. So we don't get paid, we can't specify a manufacturer. What's the point? Right? We're here to do a job. If we can't do our job, we can't get paid, we run at a loss. And then the knock-on effect is that in reality, in the UK, some of the dealers should actually be better at embodied carbon because they've been mandated it when it's come through to fruition. They haven't. And then we were at a point that how do we actually mandate what do we need? And the only way to do it is the consulting industry is supposed to guide both sides. So work with the manufacturers, be the middleman, work with the client, work with the manufacturers, work with the dealer, work with everybody.
It's that pivot in between, right?
But we're not there. There is no guidance. So if you go to a manufacturer, what do you want us to do? My answer was meet Lauren, because I have no idea. And what did that really mean? Nobody knew. And it was...
It's a learning curve.
It's a learning curve for everybody, but you've got to be open to it.
Yeah.
The bigger point to it is there's still not much guidance. The Palace framework's been out since March, April, May. I can't remember when it came out. If you know your football teams, you can know what project it came out of. But there's got to be more of it. The FCSI globally needs to adopt something, because we are the pivot. And if we as the pivot cannot mandate to the manufacturers, Shaam supply all over the world. We've got clients that use Shaam across EMEA, OPAC, America. We need to be able to say, this is what we want as an industry. Then the dealers know what they're doing. Let's be fair, the dealer is not going to change their output. If the consultant's done it at stage 3 and stage 4, they're not going to say, we're going to throw it away and do it again, because then they're wasting their time and their money. There is other parts to it. You need to look at the whole thing, and the hardest part of the framework to work out how to do it, with all due respect, is not the boxes, it's the bespoke, it's the cauldron, it's the fabrication. How do we do that? And then how does everybody do it consistently the same? Because we all as consultants get asked to peer review each other's work at a certain point. I don't want to peer review somebody else's work and look at their data and say, how the hell did you come up with that?
Yeah.
Our number is this, yours is something else. So we need a common ground that we all work to. So do we all work to a set formula for fabrication? Is there a way to do it? There is no piece of software on the market that can do it that's readily available. We built it within our systems, but that's down to the way that we work. You can get the EPD for a piece of quartz, but you can't really get it for stainless steel. We went to an FCSI member who's not in here, but for help with the fabrication, and asked them for an allied member, asked them for their EPDs or their carbon footprint on their steel, and they said, no, that's commercially sensitive, we're not going to share it with you. So what's the point in them being an FCSI member if they're not going to support us? So we all collectively need to work together.
Yeah. And on that front, Lauren, this is a good point, working together, that consistency as well. The framework featured a really unique collaboration here between major UK food service consultancies, so Invito, obviously, Humble Arnold, Tricon, SHW. Why was it so important to get agreement, get buy-in from these big players and towards a unified framework? And also, can you tell us a little bit about the reaction that the document has had since it launched?
So for me personally, I started kind of talking about sustainability and got up on my soapbox kind of 3 years ago. And I don't think anyone is under any illusion that I wasn't kind of treated, that I was a little bit mentally unwell or having a breakdown when I started talking about it. Weirdly, that's actually writing as well, which is wild. But working with Humble Arnold, I'd been working with Tricon, I'd been working with Invito on different projects. And everyone was kind of going, right, we're getting it. And then the manufacturers were saying, no, they've never done it. No, they've never done it. And I think everybody got really frustrated. And then I'm not saying Danny's ever opinionated as the director of Invito, but he might have sent quite an opinionated email saying, right, let's everybody get in a room. And it's unheard of, right?
Yeah, it is.
SHW, Tricon, Humble Arnold, Invito, round a table, going, we need to do something because we're all being told that we're definitely all not doing it, but we are. We don't have any guidance. So it was important to get everyone's buy-in because they're all suffering it. And this is billions of pounds worth of specification. And they were all coming to me going, fix it. And I was like, I'm trying, guys, but why can't we put something together? So I actually sat in a room with the kind of pinnacle of our industry. They are seen as the gold standard. And we said, right, so what does it look like? Where do we start and what can we do? And you would think there'd be this arrogance and, we're better than you and we do this and you're terrible and you shouldn't be in here. And actually they all just went, yeah, all right, cool. And it was really quite surreal because obviously Mick from Myco was in the room as well. And we were sat just kind of a little bit in awe, just going, oh my God, this will work.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it was an easy process. I'm not going to say there wasn't players in the group that had their own agenda and their own opinion to say, oh, well, it should be about this instead. But essentially what we did was come together was, right, where are we now? Where does it need to be in the next year? What do we need to know in the next 5? And everyone agreed really, really quickly. They're all amazing at admin. So organising the next meeting, meeting actions. I'd just like it for the record to say that they all absolutely attended every meeting on time. They all did all of their actions. None of it got left to me. And they were all good at saving documents as well. It's weird, right? You'd think they'd know how to do that, but we got there in the end.
Yeah.
So releasing this framework, the way that it was met is wild. We were all kind of a little bit worried, and it did go out to other industry bodies where we said, look, if you've got feedback, I don't really believe any came back at any point.
I think there was also a stage where there was hesitant to release it.
Yeah.
From the FCSI themselves was hesitant. We need to get the FEA approval. We need to get CEDA approval. No, we need to finish. We need to put it out so that the manufacturers, we've got projects that are out. From my point, completely selfishly, I ain't getting paid. So we haven't released it. And it came to a point to get it to go out that we had to option to release it without certain stamps associated with it. And that was the only way it went out. And that's because the industry doesn't come together to release it. Yeah. And that was the most important. If you have the 4 biggest consultants in the UK, 2 of them not FCSI members that came on board to do it. And the consultants were the ones that had a drive. And to be fair, to be absolutely fair to Paul Arnold, he pulled it back because my OCD is, this is how far we need to go. And Paul's like, no, we can do that in 3 years, Danny. Your brain is far too going forward.
Compromise was a thing. And I think this is, Danny was very, right, put it on paper, that's it, do it now. Paul Arnold, bless him, really said, okay, well, let's do a working document where it moves. The way it was met, innovative, groundbreaking, clarified. It's, a really good roadmap for the industry.
Yeah.
Wow, we can all work to this. We wrote, it's called a Palace framework, but it's a framework for everyone, right?
Absolutely.
It's not a framework for just a manufacturer or just a consultant. We've involved a dealer in it. Just to be clear for anyone that's watching this or listening, I have never been a food service consultant. I was the bottom of the barrel web dealer when I started. I was like, do you want to buy a fryer? Yeah, nice one, take your payment. But that's the world that I was from, and it was understanding how will this affect everyone and how can we drive it. And it's not just about embodied carbon. Embodied carbon is not the answer, it's the first step. We need to know what it looks like because, and it's a really important point that people need to understand, year on year, GHG emissions factors for electricity is coming down. Year on year, it was 2.22, it's now 0.18. And it's going to come down because as we get more renewable, as we get more wind, we get more hydro. The actual operational carbon, yes, it's not. I'm sick of hearing it's 98% of the problem. It's about 70. Quote me on it. Checking standards or EPD, they'll tell you. It's about 70% of the problem. But as we decarbonise, that number's going to get lower and lower and lower and lower for electricity. It's just it's going to be a cost number. Yeah. The embodied carbon is what we cannot change. It's what we cannot control, what we cannot measure right now. I did a piece of work on a massive skyscraper that obviously everybody kind of knows about, but we wrote a white paper. Only 2 manufacturers out of 127 could do recycled steel. One of them sat over there, Philip from Hutfer. Only one that could prove it, Steve from EcoFast, within 6 miles of his factory. Local manufacturing, really good materials, actually looking at it going, it's not sustainable because it should be, it's sustainable because we want it to be.
Yes.
I don't think Brian McDermott from Foster Cold Stores is here. He's probably off drinking wine somewhere, playing golf or something, or somewhere. But it turned out that he's been using SSAB steel for years and just told no one. And
because he wanted to be better for the environment.
Yeah.
Didn't put his cost up and absorbed it. And that came out when I asked them on Palace what they would cost to increase the steel to a green steel. And he's like, I'll join the webinar. We've been doing it since April 22.
Wow.
Nobody knew.
We need to talk about it.
Simon, from your perspective, this framework was produced very much with manufacturers in mind. Why is this an important document? And what do you think it fundamentally means for the industry?
Well, I think everything has been said, by Lauren, probably.
I know, I'm sorry.
When you look at it, it needs to be the same for everyone. So we need to have a document that everyone can read and understand and identify with. Without this framework, like we said earlier, there's too many variables, none of them are matching, so no one can actually say, this is better than this, or they've improved. I mean, how do you then go back and say, the journey started, but it's working, if your data isn't correct and uniformed? For me, it's been a huge learning. I think for us as a manufacturer, it's been a huge learning. There are many things we didn't even know about our own products.
Yeah.
Yeah, going back decades. And we've actually managed to improve our own efficiencies and supply chain management through this project. So, I mean, it's thank you from us. The benchmark is there, and I just believe every other manufacturer who hasn't considered this needs to start.
What's the consequence of that, Danny, would you say? Simon's saying this is a level playing field. If manufacturers are not offering up this kind of information, are they ultimately going to lose out on contracts?
They already do.
It's already happening.
We are mandated, and it comes in at stage 4 more, or it's in the RFP when it comes out. The amount of RFPs we get at the moment, sustainability is a leader. How do we update it? How do we stay ahead of the curve? From a consultant point of view, if you're mandated in your RFP to say you have to hit sustainability goals, are you going to specify someone that can't give you any data? It can be crap data. Doesn't matter at this point. But if you don't want to work towards it, why would we want to partner you? You want to get paid at the end of the month? Everybody wants to get paid. Are you really going to expose yourself and your IP and all your insurance levels and everything else to turn around and say, but the manufacturer doesn't want to do it? Nah. We've got some products, some brands. I mean, Hatco's got 4,000 or 5,000 products. It's a hell of a lot to do. But why don't you focus on the most popular ones? Then you can move forwards with it.
Yeah.
But if we don't have it, we can't use it, so we'll go to somebody else. They might be the best product on the market. Prove it. How are you the best product? You might be the best because you can cook, but what if it meant that you've actually polluted half the planet for a year? You don't know, so you're not really. People need to make an informed decision. And I think the more, if you relate it to the food allergens and the food regulations, you have energy, you have nutrition, you have allergen information, and over time it all builds up. But when it comes to, it's an oven, it cooks, and it's good, we're the best, and we're telling you. One manufacturer's embodied carbon came through, and it was so much lower than their competitors. It was over 40% less, and their answer was, we're the market leader, and we're that good. If you have BMW, Mercedes, and Audi, would you expect one of them to be 40% cheaper, like for like? It's just not going to happen.
No. Lauren, why are we only seeing the tip of the iceberg with regards to embodied carbon?
Why?
Because we're scared.
Yeah, we're scared. The industry is scared of change. I keep smiling because Ed from Humble Arnold's here. And there is a certain... Ed Limited, hi. There is a certain building in London that I think if we both get an email about the carbon, we just start twitching. Because it was the first of its kind. And it was kind of okay, well, the goal was to hit like 60% best case carbon count. We hit 96, and we haven't talked about that. We haven't praised it. We haven't talked about the journey. There has been a lot of blockers and a lot of challenges. There's been conferences where industry bodies have stood in front of a picture of a TM65 and gone, it's only a UK thing, and it's this and it's that. And it's like, okay, nobody wanted BIM again, right? We have been so close to that border of BIM again. And I think essentially we're at the beginning because people in the past 6 months have kind of gone, it's not going away, this, is it? I'm getting asked now by this company, and now it's in this framework. It's in just basic national account tenders.
Yeah.
The NHS are asking for it. So I think now that people realise that there's variables, and I have this overwhelmingly privileged feeling that I'm actually sat and like looking out at my clients and how they've supported it and how they've done it. And, you know, Tom from Caterham, he's based in Newark, and he's got like 20 products that are done, and he just went, yeah, let's do it. Hutfer have done 6,500 footprints. They were just like, we don't know how, but should we do some cool stuff? We've got to stop being scared of what life will be like if it's not 1980s catering equipment. We've got to move into this new world.
Simon, what are the remaining challenges then to move into that new world that Lauren talks about? How do we get the rest of the industry to catch up? How do we do that?
Well, I think it comes back to what Danny said before. FCSI has to make the change and start to say, yeah, we need it, our customers need it, we're being asked for it a lot. And then it has to trickle down. We have to follow as manufacturers if we still want to be part of this business.
Yep.
I laugh. I was there in the beginning with Lauren and having these conversations. And they were the first 1, 2, or 3 manufacturers to actually sit down and say, I'm on board. And now you look at it, and we're sitting here in a panel.
I know, right?
Informing people.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So it's still an education job to be done.
Yeah, there's a lot to be discussed. And I think a lot of it is understanding it. So one thing is you're afraid to look at what's the data going to say, and it's totally visible to everyone. I think secondly is I don't want to show people I don't actually understand what this is, which I think is an important part of this panel.
Yeah.
So people can sit back and say, all right, now I start to understand it and how it fits with me. And if we all do it together collectively, we'll get there. But we've already made massive shifts in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And I think us internally, it was a very, very big awakening. And that's why we're still supporting it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's real progress. Danny, when we published the story about the framework on the FCSI website, one of the quotes in there about it was, this is the starting point. Yeah. So ultimately, what is the end point? What does good look like?
Don't know. Tell me.
What's
good? What's good? The answer to that is when you buy a car, what's good? Is it because it's fast, because you can get there, because it looks good? What does good look like? In the very first instance, it's tangible data.
Yeah.
So can we have it tangible, and can we relate it over its holistic lifespan? So that's got to be the first part of it. We don't know until we get that data. She's got a different opinion, though.
No, do you know what good looks like? Good looks like being able to look around a pavilion at her sat on a panel talking about it and no one screwing the face up. And that's wild. It is wild. It's like Simon said when we first started talking about it. Shaam are an American manufacturer. They bought in Middleby. The stuff that Middleby is doing that people don't understand because they just think American, they do some wild stuff. They've got kitchen monitoring systems that do oil preservation. They've got an Evo grill that makes a banging bacon cheeseburger, but it also vents their electricity. You've got Seekotronic that people go, it's expensive. You can understand how stuff moves and how it works. You've got EcoFast that saving on biffa bins. Everybody's doing these amazing things, but you're doing it in such a fragmented way.
Yeah.
If we pull it all together, we have so many opportunities to do some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Good doesn't look like starting to release frameworks. It's starting to surround yourself with people that go, well, I do this. So if we put that in your project and then we try this, we have the opportunity collectively to make some really good food, but change the world in our own way. And I think that's what good looks like.
So my final question, I'd like you all to answer this, please, is that's what good looks like. And yet the industry's facing a ton of challenges at the moment. Cost control, inflation, tariffs, all manner of things that are impacting the bottom line. Why must it not drop the ball with something like this? Because it does require investment of time and money and resources. Why is this topic more important than ever? Lauren, if you go first.
We are funded by end users. It doesn't matter who you are in the room. We all have jobs, whether it's editing a magazine, whether it's making equipment, whether it's being a carbon consultant, whether it's designing these things. They come to us because we're the experts. They come to us going, I need to achieve this, this is my budget, and I have to trust you to do it. So we can't drop the ball because firstly, we've all got, families and stuff. It was 43 degrees in Leeds a few years ago. I didn't know how to cope. I'm from Yorkshire, it rains. We've got a lot. We've got kids that we want to live in nice climates. We don't want to just keep taking things out of the ground, but we also don't want to see our clients suffer.
Yeah.
So you don't want to say, you should buy this 10 grand piece of equipment that's going to last you 3 years. We need to help them invest in the right way so we have jobs.
Yeah.
We need to help invest in the right way. So when people go into the venues that we've designed or we've created or installed in, they have a great experience because we help them do that. But honestly, I think we can't drop the ball because there is so much green in this exhibition that if we do, it's going to have to be a different colour. And I will walk around this and ask questions. I just will. But we can't drop the ball because the rest of the world isn't. And it is moving. And yes, there are political things going on. But places will keep closing. They will keep suffering capex cuts if we don't help them spend better.
Yeah. Danny, same question.
Lauren waffled for too long, I can't remember.
Oh, God.
I think the reality is that regardless of how do we move forwards, the real way to move forwards is the bodies need to come together and have one representative and have a common agreement. Yeah. We've joined calls on the Talk Friday and talk about sustainability. And everybody has a different way of approaching it, which is fine. But then there should be a holistic approach to sustainability written by FCSI, America, UK, and EMEA, because we detract. The UK consultants, members are predominantly management consultants. There's only half a dozen of us that are design consultants. So if you take the people on the Palace framework, Tricon aren't a member, they're one of the biggest in the industry. We need them. And we need all of the different sectors to come together to have a collective process and a collective framework to move forwards and a collective holistic approach with different working groups that specialise in different things that can actually feed in to the holistic sustainability of food service equipment. There is some manufacturers that will support it, sponsor it. Different manufacturers, Steve would do something, we've had conversations about it, and there's lots of cross-industry events. We all like to go to a brewery and have a pint. There's a brewery in Suffolk that does some fantastic things with sustainability. They used to draw all of their beer around the village by horse, and then they had to move it outside of the village, and they held it in a warehouse that's turf so they don't have to heat it. They're really cool, so we can take cross-industry learnings, but there's cross-industry learnings we can take from all over the world.
Yeah.
And it needs a board, and it needs to be driven further forwards, and it needs somebody that's actually paid as their job, because it cost us an absolute fortune in time, effort, and I'm crap at admin, so my admin skills were terrible, but Lauren did it, so she became the PA for everybody at the same time, and her standard joke at the moment is she's the managing director of Invito because she manages the director, but it's we realistically need to sit together and come up with a way forwards, and how do we fund it?
Yeah.
So we all pay fees into an organisation. There should be a green tax on allied members. If you haven't done your embodied carbon, you're not intending to do it, you can pay more. And you should be mandated to support the industry to move forward.
Some good ideas here. Simon, same question.
Well, I mean, from my side as a manufacturer, it was let's say it wasn't a tough decision, but we had to commit to it. So we decided it's long-term. This is going to be in the DNA of the organization. This is how we're going to do our manufacturing moving here on in. We can make buying decisions based on the learnings that we've made from this. And the amount of hours that Charlie has put into going back through decades of reporting and finding components that in them days it didn't come with a barcode, and now we have to find this, and there was no way. So we put so much effort into this at this point, it would be an absolute waste to stop moving forwards, and I'd lose my job.
I'd like to thank Alto-Shaam for sponsoring this panel session. It was an excellent session. Lauren, Danny, and Simon, thank you so much for taking
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
It's been brilliant. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.